So first of all, thank you for your time, and also congratulations on the film. I really liked it. I've been a fan of your work for a long time, so I was very excited to watch it, and obviously never disappoints, didn't disappoint.
You know what I was doing last night?
No, but whatever it was, you sound very excited.
So to start off, I wanted to talk about, I'm sure you've gotten this question a lot, but I want to talk about Franz Rogowski.
Okay.
Because I heard you wrote the movie thinking about him.
Yes.
And I mean, it's very easy to tell why. He's a fantastic actor, but I wanted to know what it was about him that inspired you to write this film.
I saw a film, Michael Haneke's Happy End.
Yeah.
And in the film, Franz he's like a beast of cinema. He kind of takes over the screen in a way that's also has a kind of modesty. He's got a great force. He's very attractive as a person, as a body, as a force. And specifically, there's a scene where he does karaoke to Sia's Chandelier. Mm-hmm. And people can see that on YouTube, which I recommend. And he's just like otherworldly. And I was inspired to write the film. This happens in my career where I see people that I get excited about. And I don't end up like writing a film for them the next day. I basically have them stored in my memory. And then sometimes a story comes along and I'm like, that guy. Or Paulina Garcia, I made a film called Little Men, and I had seen her in Gloria, and I just kept her in mind. And so that's part of what I do is I collect inspiration.
Oh, that's amazing. And of course, you cannot talk about France without talking about Ben Whishaw and Adela Exarchopoulos, who are also both amazing.
Yes.
And I was wondering if the same thing happened to you. Like, did you see them in some project?
Yes.
Or?
Yes, I saw Adele in a movie by Justine Trier called Sybil.
Yeah. Yeah, Justine.
I didn't know who she was. I hadn't seen Blue is the Warmest Color.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, who is that? And Ben, I saw in a movie called I'm Not There.
Oh, Todd Haynes.
Which is Todd Haynes' film, and he played one of many Bob Dylan's. And I also saw Ben on stage in The Crucible.
Oh, I would love that.
And I think both those things, I really need to see somebody being the kind of actor I like for like 15 or 20 minutes. They don't need to lead a film. They just need to like draw my attention in a way that I feel very confident.
Yeah, no, and that's a testament to their talent if they can have not the main character and still be magnetic, which I think is a word that you could use to describe all three of them, which is why the movie is so compelling, especially with such close frames and everything. You cannot take your eyes off, and you do understand why Thomas is so irresistible in a way.
Well, I would say you can't take your eyes off them, and also the camera doesn't take their eyes off them. I remember once seeing Vertigo and thinking about Kim Novak.
Yes.
And in a way, Kim Novak is a very unusual looking woman. Like her features are not easy, but the camera tells you she's the most beautiful woman in the world.
That's true.
And so she is, because you're told that. So part of it is like a magnetism, but also it's the quality of looking that the filmmaker provides.
Yeah, that's true. And I also read somewhere that you didn't like having group rehearsals because you felt as though you were like intruding in their relationship almost. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, because I've never heard of that before.
It's not uncommon. I mean, I think a lot of Franz, I saw an interview with him when he was talking a little bit about this film, and he said the way I work, he sees more often in Europe. It's not that I don't want to intrude. It's just actually I don't believe that I have anything to add.
Okay.
Since that we're not creating theater.
Yeah.
We're creating a live event that we want the camera to record. So I try not to sort of bring up conversations which will then limit discovery. And if you start talking in rehearsals about subtext and you talk about motivation, then you begin to define what those things are instead of discovering them. It's like as if you had a rehearsal for your therapy session.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
not possible. It would be a totally different experience. And so I try to stay out of the way while at the same time the actors know that I'm present.
Yes.
I also spend a lot of time working on costumes.
Oh, because you can tell.
Well, I spend a lot of time, one, because it's a way of creating character. Two, it's a way of being with these people. That's fun. And then that's how relationships are formed, right? Like we start to talk about clothes, and then we talk about ourselves, and then we try new things on, and slowly we get a rapport that is very important to the making of a film.
Yeah, and I think, again, as a spectator, you can really tell. You can really feel that. It really does feel like the true story, almost. And I think also, obviously, the film, at its core, it's about love. But I'm wondering if you think that what Thomas feels for Agathe and for Martin, is it really love, or is it him yearning for like this type of unconditional love that he can't give back?
Well, any explanation of love is short of what it is, right? Love is like a word that's used simply that deserves 3,000 years of exploration. So it's whatever it is. It's ways in which people sort of exchange affection, desire, and need. But every definition comes up short.
Yeah, and you can have 1,000 different definitions, that's right.
Yes.
And another thing I really liked that felt very authentic is how you can tell both Martin and Agathe are very smart people. Like, I mean, Agathe is a teacher, Martin is a very successful artist, and yet they still make these decisions that as audience member, you're like, okay, but you already know the outcome of this. So, I mean, was that something that worried you maybe, that the audience would be like, why are they doing this? Like, it doesn't make sense.
No, because I think it's played in the present tense. It's happening in the now. And I think that the audience, and the actors are actually living it in the now. So I don't feel that they necessarily have the distance to be like analytic about what they're doing, or certain about what the right direction is. But in the course of the film, they make choices.
Yeah.
Nobody makes choices without experience.
No.
So the film is that experience.
I think Thomas is a director, and it's not the first time you have your characters been directors. So while it may not be autobiographical or even semi-autobiographical, how much of your personal experience and of yourself do you allow to like seep into your stories, into your film?
I mean, I'm trying to answer that really honestly, because my first thought, of course, I am Tomas. I'm interested in how I work with power, what I do with the power that I have, and how I still want more. I think the consequences of my actions is really part of what I'm interested in thinking about when I make work and tell stories. But on the other hand, it's also people I've known. So I think that in some ways, Tomas is a collection of people I've observed, with me being one of those people.
And is that something that maybe, well, I wouldn't know if to use the word frighten, but to write about people you have known, or even about yourself, and to know that people you know will watch that and maybe recognize themselves. Is that like slightly hard?
No, not so much. I mean, I think that in a way, my art is a way of talking about things that I have a hard time talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm much more likely to expose myself. And I get inspiration from film directors like Chantal Akerman.
Oh, I love her.
Particularly Je suis Hillel.
Oh.
Taxi Zoom Clos, which was a film made in 1981 in Berlin, starring the director Frank Riplow as a gay man, and it's a very explicit film. Films in which the directors, I mean, you could say 8.5, films in which the directors are exposing themselves. Let's use the word exposing, like really like being naked, are films that give me kind of permission and courage to try to do better in sharing what I feel.
And also something I noted about the film is how a lot of it is Thomas going from person to person, from relationship to relationship. He doesn't ever really sit still, even when he's sitting down, like in the scene with the meal with Agathe and her parents. Yeah. He doesn't sit still. So I was wondering if that relates a bit to the title, to Passages.
I think, I mean, what comes to my mind is like a pinball machine.
Yeah.
That these people are kind of, and I think of the film as an action film. Like if you ask me what genre, I'm determined to call it action. Because it's a film about combustibility, it's about impact, it's about what happens when you run into somebody else.
Yeah.
I think it's more of an action film than Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah.
right? Like it's...
No, it is. And you experience the same feeling as when you're watching an action film, actually.
I think that that's what I hope is that the film is propulsive. I really set out to make a film of pleasure.
Yeah.
Very simply, I wanted to make a film. And for me, pleasure is depth, and pleasure is sex.
Yeah.
And pleasure is intimacy and color and good acting. And also the feeling that maybe for one of the things I love in film is when I feel like maybe I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be allowed to be in the room.
Yeah, you feel almost like, I don't know, like voyeuristic, that you're like, should I be watching this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the privilege that the film gives you. You are watching. But in my film, you're also sometimes, you're watching, but you don't have the perfect seat.
Yeah, because you are mostly in Thomas's brain, right? So I
No, I don't think you're in anyone's brain. I really try not to construct images from point of view.
Okay.
So I think in a way, you don't know who dominates the scene.
Right. So maybe that's up to the viewer, like to which character you relate the most.
Yes, it's more...
That's fantastic.
I'd say like it's in a way, it's a kind of approach which is influenced by cinema verite.
Okay, sure.
But I'm creating the event.
And I mean, we're almost out of time, but I really want to ask you exactly about this. You set out to make a film about pleasure that is very sexy, very erotic. And I think that's something that's really missing from cinema these days, especially very commercial cinema. And I was wondering, well, one, why do you think this is missing? And why do you think younger generations especially are so almost like they don't like watching sex scenes and they think they are unnecessary, if there's such a thing?
I actually think that you're generalizing in some way that isn't really true.
I think it's mostly in America.
Maybe. I actually think you're just reading Twitter.
Yeah,
and actually,
no,
so you're
totally
just reading,
right.
and I feel like we can't create discourse around things that aren't true.
Okay, yeah.
And from my experience, the idea that people are questioning whether sex has a place in cinema is ridiculous. Not only is it a ridiculous question, it's actually not what people think. I haven't met one person who thinks that. I've met a lot of people showing this film, and not one person has said to me, I don't think there's a place for sex in cinema. I think it's a creation of kind of Twitter talk.
Yeah, it's very much a bubble, almost.
It's a bubble that actually, like, as we can see, and I can see when I'm showing passages, is not really relevant. It's like, you want to see this movie. You're young. So there you go. You want to see this movie, right? You're young. There you go. So there, 100%.
Oh, well, I'm very glad you think so. And I'm very much looking forward to watching anything you make next. So thank you so much for your time. It has been an honor talking to you.
And for me, thank you so much for your attention and thoughtfulness.
Oh, thank you.